before this episode, if you want to see the words as well as hear them, get exclusive content, access to the regular episodes before anyone else, and take part in the monthly questions and comments edition, you can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify and get all of that for the price of a very average coffee a month. Okay, let's get on with it. This is Mackenzie Shirilla talking at her double murder trial, where she was found guilty.
I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken.
Those are the only words she has spoken about the case in public. Until now, there's a new Netflix documentary out, a huge success. It's called Crash, and she has given an interview to that, which we're going to look at in this episode because lots of people have opinions, but when we look at her words, is Mackenzie telling the truth or is she lying? Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you're a regular to this channel, this is exactly what you expect to see on it. It's a classic case of lots of words. Are they truthful? Are they lies? In fact, I've had many DMs this week saying, Jack, look at Mackenzie. If you're new here, what I do is I just look at the words spoken by the person of interest, only the words, and try to ignore everything else that's there. I haven't watched the documentary, for instance. I break those words down to see what's going on inside them. You see, I've studied the words of thousands of criminals, so I can show you how people use words to lie, to cheat, to manipulate, to deceive. I can show you what the truth sounds like as well. So let's look at Mackenzie Shirilla. She killed her boyfriend and his friend in a car crash where it appears she just drove the car deliberately until it crashed into something, hence the name Crash. She says she can't remember anything about it. The authorities and many other people said this was deliberate, and then that's the whole subject of the documentary where she has given an interview. We're going to look at the words she spoke in that documentary to see what's going on inside them. I'm not going to show a video of the interview because Netflix would get this off faster than you could say Crash. But when we're going through her words, I want you to listen for leakage. The truth will come out. Lying is really, really hard. You see, you've got to have what you know, the truth inside your head and the lie as well. And that truth won't leave your head. So it will be, you'll be thinking about it when you're making up the lie and going, does this make sense? Does this refute what I want to say? And in all that confusion of thinking about the lie, the truth will show up in your words as we shall see. So let's start with her talking about not speaking before until the Netflix thing. And I'll read you the quote. I've never spoken before and I never told my side of the story. I understand there's many different sides to the story and different perspectives, but I just want to say my truth and I just know myself and I know I'm not a monster. Regulars are going, red flags. There are so many red flag words just in that one introductory paragraph. She starts off saying, I've never spoke before. Now that word never is used all the time in deception. I'm not saying whenever you hear someone say never, they are lying, but do check in and just have a see if they are deceiving you because it sounds like a very concrete word, but its use is much more elastic. And it's a lie. She has spoke before. Number one, conceptually, we know she has spoken in her life before, so it is not true. She's talking in big absolute terms, which is something people do to convince us they're telling the truth. But also she did speak at the trial and said some things in her mitigation. So I got that word never, the second word that she says there. I'm going, is deception happening here? And now I know deception is happening. I'm not on her side after 4 words. I've never spoke before. And then she says, I've never told my side of this story. Interesting there. It's not I've never told the truth. I've never told what happened. It's my side of the story, which is her admitting there are different sides and perspectives to the story. And there always are. There is a truth, but there are views on the truth or perspectives or memories change and fade. But she's admitting that there are sides to it. She's not claiming to have the truth and the full truth and only the truth. She's just saying, I'm going to tell my side of the story. Again, not what happened. She's not talking about what happened. She's talking about the story. As we all know, stories are mostly fiction, and therefore, we're now 2 lines in, and I'm going, God, what is going on here? I've never told my side of this story. Again, it's not, I've never said what happened before. I understand there's many different sides to the story and different perspectives. And that word understand, I get she does understand there's many different sides to the story. She's not disputing any of the different sides to the story. In fact, she's embracing them and saying, I understand they are there. And there's many different sides to the story. So they're, not just... There's different ways of telling this. She's not saying there was one plain line of truth all the way through this. Just many different sides to the story and different perspectives, but not false ones. She's just saying they're different. She's not saying they're not true. She's not saying they're lies. They're not saying they're all made up and she's got the truth. She's just saying there are different ways of telling this story. But I just want to say my truth. And that word just is another red flag for deception. When someone's using just like this, they're minimizing something down. There's usually something much more happening, but they only want you to focus on one little thing. So I think here she's got many reasons that she wants to talk. Maybe she wants people to think better of her. Maybe she wants an appeal. Maybe she wants out of jail. But here she's just framing it as, I just want to say my truth. No, you don't just want to say that. There is more behind this, but you're deceiving us by saying this is just what it is that you want to do. And to say my truth. Therapy speak. Therapy has for some reason said to us that you have your own truth and you're allowed to speak your own truth, which is, I'm not buying that. There is only a truth. I get there's different perspectives on it, just like Mackenzie says, but it's my truth, i.e. she owns it. It's not something that's going to be shared by other people. If it's your truth, it can't be shared by other people. Why? Probably because it's the story you want to tell that you've dubbed the truth. Then she says, I just know myself. So again, minimizing it down. Look, forget all the evidence, forget anything else, forget what other people say. It's just, I just know myself. I just know myself and I know I'm not a monster. Now you'll notice there's no denial in all of that there. I didn't kill these people deliberately, Dom and Davino. There's nothing whatsoever there. It's just saying, I know myself. I know I'm not a monster. Now, I know myself. We all know ourselves, but she doesn't say, I know myself and I know I wouldn't do that, which again, doesn't mean that you wouldn't do it. We all, I've said before, I like to think I'm a caring person and care about other people, but there's been moments in my life where I haven't cared about other people, when, given them as much care as they deserve. I'll still label myself as a caring person, but I haven't always been caring. I know myself and I know I'm not a monster is a personal definition as well. If she thinks there was some justification from mental health issues through to this guy was really hacking me off and I just wanted to do away with him, if she thinks that's justified, she may say, well, that wasn't the behaviour of a monster. I'm not a monster. So in this opening thing, the sides to the story and perspectives, they're not false. She's not saying, I've got the truth here and I'm going to tell the truth and knock down everything else. Knowing herself and not being a monster, they're not denials of what it is that she is being convicted of. And not a monster, very much a personal definition. She carries on and she's talking now about the relationship that she had with Dom, one of the guys that she killed. I'll read the full extract. We were just two kids messing with each other, and then as the years went on and we stayed together and we grew closer, we would have probably been married by now. Now, she talks here in very us pronouns about her and Dom. In her head, she's still very joined to this guy. When we're not joined to people, we don't use the word we. When we feel this join and this unity with a person, we use we. And she still has that with Dom. I'm not saying it makes her innocent or anything like that. It's just an interesting way about how she talks about their relationship. It becomes more interesting as we go later. We were just two kids. So just two kids messing with each other. Again, I think there was a lot more going on. And she admits there was a lot more going on there, but she just wants to say we were just two kids messing with each other. We were young and innocent and messing, nothing was that serious. Not so serious that, we were going to have, something where I killed them. We were just two kids messing with each other. Now, kids being young and the movement of time onwards is a theme that reappears in her words a lot. So that's why I've highlighted kids there. Messing with each other. Again, they are messing with each other. It's not he was messing with me or she was messing with him. It's very much there. We were messing with each other. That sign of unity again. And then as the years went on and we stayed together, so we have years went on. So this is the passage of time theme coming through again. As the years went on, so again, this unity, we stayed together. Now, interesting, she has to tell us that, because if they were just messing with each other, why wouldn't they stay together if everything was fun and fine and just messing with each other? We stayed together. The first hint, lots of problems in this relationship for me, because she feels the need to tell us that they stayed together and we grew closer. So that again suggests that, we still have these things about them, being a couple. We grew closer. We would probably been married by now. Now, that is said with a little bit of doubt, probably. So, from that, having to tell us that they stayed together, i.e. there must have been some doubt that they would stay together, and probably been married by now, says that this was a relationship that was quite rocky. And it was, as she will admit later. So we have the theme of immaturity and time moving on here. And I wonder if her justification for not being a monster is that when she did this act, she felt like she was a kid, doing childlike things and doing something very childish and immature. And she's grown up now, and therefore she's not the person that did it. I'm not a monster is what she said. Present tense, actually, if we look at it. She said, I'm not a monster. No, I wasn't a monster. So maybe she feels like she's changed as a person, which is why we have these passage of time concepts coming through a lot there. But she does see them as a couple in her head, and that might be wrong, right? But that might be just her interpretation of it. She does see them as a couple. The next extract I've got here was he was, excuse me, he was just so protective and loving over me. Interesting ordering there. The first thing that she notes her boyfriend for being was protective and then loving. Normally, I would expect loving to be like the number one thing. When we list things, we tend to put the priority thing first, the second priority thing second, and descending priority as we go on down a list when we're talking. Here we have protective before loving. So she saw this guy as a protector rather or more than someone who was loving. And again, we've got some persuasive and deceptive words there. He was just so protective. So protective. He can either be protective or he's not protective, but so protective is trying to tell us how protective he was. So maybe he wasn't that protective, but she wanted him to be protective. And just so protective, again, there was a lot more going on in that relationship. It wasn't just protection and loving, but she wants to just focus on it, the nice things, by using that word just. It's just so protective and loving over me. That's all that was going on, protection and loving. And then she says, I wanted to heal him and he wanted to heal me. Now, that's intent. What she's saying there is neither healed the other one. It wasn't I healed him, he healed me. It's I wanted to just heal him and he wanted to heal me. And we've got that word just in there again. I wanted to just heal him. I think she wanted to do a lot more. Potentially, she wanted him to change a lot more as a person, not just be healed, but maybe to offer more protection, as we can see there from the words. But again, as much as she wants to say this was a great relationship, and she does use those we words and together words, each other words, she does, still talk as if it was a relationship that, was really good. All the signs in her words come out here. It wasn't a great relationship. She says, we were partners. We've got we again. And then we just took care of each other. And again, this is just her focusing us on all the good things with that just. This was all that was going on. It was just small things. Don't look anywhere else. It was just that we took care of each other. Then she carries on, and now she talks about some of the cracks. I mean, we argued, we got back together, we broke up, we got back together. By the way, if you just stay with this episode if you want to hear them arguing, because I've got more than just what she did on Netflix. I've got some things for us to listen to and look at that show them arguing. So, I mean, we argued. So we've got this we again, and we've got lots of we argued. And when she says we, that suggests that, both of them were doing the arguing, which, it could well be correct. I'm not victim blaming here, just saying what are in the words. Because people argue, it's not a bad thing. We argued, we got back together, we broke up, we got back together. Interesting, the ordering here. She leads with the bad things. It's not we were together, we'd argue and break up, but we got back together again. It's we argued, bad thing. We got back together, good thing. We broke up, bad thing. We got back together, good thing. The bad things come first there. And then she says, it was rocky, but it was good. It was just, we were in love. Young love. So she's admitting it was rocky, and it's in her words, it's shown through so much that this was not a good relationship. And now she's using that word rocky, but it was good. Well, rocky came before good there. There is a but in there, which means she wants to, leave us with the thought that it was good. But good is not a great word for a relationship, is it? It was good. It's not like convincing me that this was like, wow, an amazing relationship. It was rocky and good. that sounds a bit meh. It was just, she's going to say something else and use that just minimizer, so that's what we focus on. We were in love, young love, and we have that immaturity concept coming through again. And I think this is really her self-justification for what has happened, is that she is saying, I was young, I was immature, I was a stupid young girl, and I'm better than that now. But that's the relationship. That's her talking about the relationship. Is that the best she can do to portray the relationship? It was rocky, but it was good. She gets worse. She's asked by the interviewer, did you ever feel in your arguments with Dom rage that you couldn't control? And she says, no, it was never like that. Now, we have that word never, which suggests it could be there, but it's quite a straightforward answer, actually. She is asked a yes-no question, and she says no as an answer. She doesn't go elsewhere with it or talk about something else or try and change the subject. She says, no, it was never like that. But if I believe that, or if I buy that as quite a credible answer, the next part's horrible. She says, it was always just like more. We'd argue. I'd get sad because he didn't have good communication skills, and we would be cool later that day, or a couple of hours later, we would be watching movies on the couch eating popcorn. So, what have we got there? It was just like more. So again, she's wanting to take the whole complexities of this relationship and I think the bad things and hide them behind this just and say there was just a little thing going on. It was just like more. And then she says, thinks better of it, stops, and then says, we'd argue. So she was going to take some blame there for something. I did this, we'd argue. And then she changes it to we'd argue and make it we. So she was going to talk about herself and take something, but then she says, we'd argue. And then for the first time in anything I've seen, no, it's not the first time actually, but it's interesting, she splits them apart. She doesn't say we'd get sad because of communication skills. She says I'd get sad because he didn't have really good communication skills. So she's putting him down. She's putting a dead person down. And there is this concept of don't speak ill of the dead, but she's saying he didn't have really good communication skills. And just take it to logic. Sad because someone didn't have really good communication skills, frustrated maybe, but I mean, putting the guy down, I just don't like anyway. But this is her putting in her words, trying to put all the blame on him. They'd have these arguments and he couldn't explain himself. He didn't have good communication skills. I wanted him to have good communication skills so we could get on and, not argue. And that made me sad, but I don't buy any of that at all. I'd get sad because he didn't have good communication skills. No, you might have got angry, even sad at some of the things that he said that weren't quite right in your view, Shirilla. But no, you didn't get sad because you didn't have good communication skills. And also you've moved away from this thought about, rage that you couldn't control. And then she says, we'd be cool later that day, or a couple of hours later, we'd be watching movies on the couch, eating popcorn. She's blaming herself there, though. It's because she talks about her having the negative emotion. He has no communication or doesn't have good communication skills. She's the one that has the negative emotion, if you notice in her talks there. Then she talks about Davian, the other person that died in the crash. And it's interesting here, the way she describes her relationship. So this is Mackenzie Shirilla's relationship with Davian. Davian was more of Dom's friend. That summer, he came to live with me and Dom for a week or two. And during those couple of weeks, I was growing really close to Davian. He was just full of life. He was a good person. There's no we there for Davian. There's no we like there was for Dom. And also, as they're talking here, she stops using we for herself and Dom. She doesn't say that summer he came to live with us, which would be that joint pronoun that she's been using a lot for him. Mackenzie says that summer he came to live with me and Dom, so separately, for a week or two. And during those couple of weeks, I was growing really close to Davian. He was just full of life. Just, again, was he, more than that going on? I think there might be, and she doesn't want us to look at that. But there's no we for Davian, but also the we has disappeared from herself and Dom there. So, yeah, very interesting. She also seems to use Davian's name more than she uses Dom's name when she talks. Here's another bit from Mackenzie. Through all the evidence that has been presented, the most logical speculation seems to be a medical emergency. And this is her talking about her explanation for the crash that killed these two guys. Wording, really interesting here. Through all the evidence that has been presented, the most logical speculation seems to be a medical emergency. So not through all the evidence, she's qualifying it there, just the evidence that has been presented. So not everything that she knows. Certainly, not just on her experience and the fact that she knows more than anyone else about a whole lot of this. She's just looking at the evidence that has been presented, not even, and I think, what does she mean by that? That was put forward in court, put forward in the trial? Well, that's not all the evidence. So she's really narrowing this down somewhat to all the evidence that was presented. The most logical speculation seems to be medical emergency, not the most obvious reason. The most obvious thing that could have happened seems to be medical emergency, but speculation. Well, speculation is, people thinking something. Speculation could be true, could be not true. But it's interesting that she's gone to the word speculation, which means thinking about it and, what do I think has happened rather than what has happened. So not very convincing there at all with this medical emergency, and also no person attached to it at all. Notice she's disappeared here. Through all the evidence that has been presented, the most logical speculation seems to be a medical emergency. Not talking about her suffering a medical emergency, not talking about her undergoing this, not talking about her in there at all. She's talking in concepts, frankly, about someone else. And then she talks about POTS syndrome, which is what she's claiming to have, which causes sudden blackouts. And she explains them. She says, and she stutters, with POTS, you just black out. It can happen very fast. If I move a certain way, it just comes out of nowhere. I could just be sitting like this and it could hit me. So with POTS, she doesn't say, as I suffer from POTS, I can just black out. She doesn't say that. She doesn't talk about herself again. She says what could happen to you. She's saying it in the second person. With POTS, you could just black out. So she's talking about, again, the concept of the medical emergency, but she's left herself out of it. A surefire sign for me that there's something going on here. She's not committed to saying that she has this syndrome or this thing and that it caused the accident. She's an onlooker looking at this concept rather than someone who is living inside this concept. With POTS, you just black out. It can happen very fast. Not to me. She doesn't say to me. She's not in there, and only it can. She might have read the POTS Wikipedia page for all I know. From that, she's not given us any personal experience. Then she says, if I move in a certain way, it just comes out of nowhere. So now all of a sudden, she has put herself in there, but where? If I move in a certain way, it just comes out of nowhere. What's it? The blackouts? What is it? She doesn't say. When she was being specific about POTS, she wasn't in there. When she's being specific about herself, POTS isn't in there. She's not joining herself to this at all. I could just, there's the word just, be sitting and it could hit me. She's asked, how does a medical emergency account for the control of the car? She says, and her response is, I'm unsure I have, because I have no recollection of that morning, but I know nothing about it was intentional because that's not my character. So I'm unsure I have, and then she says, I have no recollection, so I'm unsure because I have no recollection of that morning. Interesting. Again, she's distancing herself from all this again, and I don't know what she's claiming. Can she not remember a huge big time span, or can she not remember the time around the accident? But she's no recollection of that morning. She's not saying the accident there. Again, she's removing herself from the whole situation. But I know nothing about it. But you do. I know nothing about it was intentional because that's not my character. Interesting. She's said she's got elements to it here. She's not saying, I know it wasn't intentional because that's not my character. It's nothing about it was intentional. So she's aware of all sorts of different elements of this crash. And she must be aware there's lots of different elements because nothing about it was intentional. I.e., it's not just it wasn't intentional because that's not my character. It's nothing about it, suggesting there was all sorts of things. And again, I think this is her self-justification that, yeah, I did mean to crash the car into the wall, but I didn't really mean, I meant to scare people, not kill them or injure people or something like that. Or I didn't think of the consequences, or I only wanted to kill one of them, or only wanted to, I don't know what it is, but she's got all the elements of what is going on there, which is betrayed by her saying nothing about it was intentional. And again, because that's not my character, it's not, I know nothing was intentional, and leaving it at that. That's not my character, but we do things out of character all the time. And we know people who do things out of character all the time. How often do we say, it's not like him to be late, or it's not like him to get drunk on a Saturday night? Yeah, we do. because people do things out of character all the time. It's not an alibi. It's not a defense. It's not a denial. So she's so very passive and away from the whole thing here. Also, the character thing is hard to prove. How do you prove what someone's character is? You know, if you could prove that her character wasn't to intentionally do that, you might be able to say, all right, I believe you, but we just have to take her word for it. And I'm not taking her word for it. Then maybe there's something edited here, but the next quote we've got from her is, be the best person I can be every day, stay out of trouble. And there's pronouns missing there. I'm not hearing her say, I try to be, or I just want to be the best person I can be every day. And I try and stay out of trouble, or I stay out of trouble, which would be even more committed. Just be the best person I can be, stay out of trouble. Again, it's a concept. She's missing herself in what she says. And be the best person I can be every day. Not be a great person, but just do your very best. And then we've got something that is, it's a riddle wrapped inside an enigma. It's a double, treble, quadruple negative. There's not a moment that doesn't pass where I don't think about them, or I don't feel the pain in my chest, that it's still like a void of losing them in. She tells us lots of things here that don't happen. There's not a moment of the day that doesn't pass. What? Where I don't think about them. You try and make that make sense, but what she's saying there is, I don't think about them. That's the phrase she's reached to. I don't think about them. I don't feel the pain in my chest. It's still like a void of losing them. It's like an embedded confession that she really is kind of glad they're not there. I don't think about them. I don't feel the pain. That's what she says. There's not a moment of the day that doesn't pass where I don't think about them. I don't feel the pain in my chest. If you actually listen to her saying that, it sounds very much like that. I know what she wants to say is, I think about them all the time, but she can't say that. When we don't think about someone all the time, we haven't got the words in our head. We haven't got the experience to just make that into really easy to say words. So we reach on what we know and what we feel. And that is, I don't think about them. I don't feel the pain. It's an embedded confession there, telling us what is not rather than what is. And then there's a cracking moment where she thinks she can talk to her lawyer, who was present for the interview, and it won't get broadcast. And she says to the lawyer, did I touch on that, the rights? Okay, so once everything is like you think, and this is her confirming that, she got across all the things that she wants to do. And she says to her lawyer, I don't want to force anything or just say too much or sound crazy. Now, say too much is interesting. She doesn't want to say too much, i.e. I think she's really aware that saying too much would not be a good thing. That's why she doesn't want to say too much. She thinks it's a bad thing. And that's because that thing I was talking about of leakage, saying too much will get you in trouble if you're lying, because things will come out, or you'll make contradictions, and things won't work right. So that's why I think she's careful not to say too much. And then she talks again and she says, I just want to make sure that I'm big on the no intent. There was no intent whatsoever there. So we've got two justs. We've a double negative earlier, now a double just. I just want to make sure. Again, she's just minimizing something that's quite big for her with this word just to make it seem really small. I'm big on the no intent. And interestingly, she says there was no intent whatsoever there. She's missing here. I'm big on the fact that I did not intend for this to happen. I did not intend this whatsoever, would be her putting herself in there, but she doesn't. It's no intent like a concept, like a thing that she wants to get across because she thinks that will set her free, make her a better person or something like that. And also there was no intent whatsoever there is the same as, in all ways, or whatever it was she said earlier. Let's go and check what it was that she said earlier. Nothing about it was intentional. There was no intent whatsoever, which again says to me that she's aware there was all sorts of things going on in there. There might have been intent to crash the car, but she thinks there was no intent to kill someone or something like that. There is a lot of layers to how she justifies what she did to herself. I'm going to look at some video of herself and Dom arguing in just a moment, and also what we saw at the very beginning of this episode, her talking in court. This is the last thing that I've got from the Netflix documentary, which is she says, I have excessive amounts of remorse for Dominic, Davy and both of their families. This was not intentional and I will do everything I can to prove that to the world and the families. Once again, minimizing what happened. This was not intentional. Not talking about their deaths. You know, not talking about the fact they died in an accident in a car she was the driver of at all. It's just downplayed and really softened to this. This was not intentional, and I will do everything I can to prove that to the world and their families. Now, proving is interesting, not show, but prove. That suggests she thinks she can get there with logic or argument or something like that, rather than just showing this is what happened. Right, lots more from Mackenzie Shirilla still to come. We'll go back to the episode in a moment, but if this breakdown hits home, make sure you're following or subscribe to this podcast, because what I'm doing here isn't just a one-off episode. We are building a skill. And like any talent worth having, it takes repetition. The more you hear these patterns, the more naturally you'll spot them in your actual life. I hear it from listeners so often. Eventually, you can't unhear this stuff. You'll be in a meeting or on a call, and you'll start noticing the subtext earlier than anyone else, which gives you an edge in how you respond. If you aren't ready to commit to training just yet, but you found this episode valuable, do me a quick favour. Leave a rating or share this episode. It's the best way to feed the algorithms and ensure these tools get into the ears of the people who genuinely need them. And if you want to be more careful with how you speak, to talk with more clarity, authority and confidence, then do search for my other podcast. It's available everywhere. Just search for How Words Work. Let's go back to Mackenzie Shirilla. And this is, I think Dom recorded this, and this is them having an argument over the phone, and it's horrifying.
And so we were done.
I did not say we are done. Dom? Okay, ready? I'm going to count to 10. The door's going to open, okay? You're going to open the door and stop hiding behind the door like a little fucking bitch. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Mackenzie, I can't open the door.
4. Okay, I'm going to break something then.
Why would you break something? Why? What are you trying to break?
Okay, open the door.
What are you trying to break?
Open the door.
No, I'm not opening the door.
Dom, I'm going to give you, if this phone call hits 5 minutes, we're breaking up.
Mackenzie, I can't do this shit right now. You can't sit here and fight like.
Okay, well, you're not going to dinner.
Okay, well, step away from the door. Maybe I can come outside and talk for a second.
No, we're not fighting outside. You're going to open the door right now.
Why aren't we fighting outside?
1 minute now, actually.
Look, wait, now my mom's trying to call me. Like, I got.
No, if you hang up on me, we're done. I'm leaving.
Wow. Yeah, not the prettiest to hear that, was it? But let's look at the language that Mackenzie uses here to try and get insight into her personality. Dom starts the call off by saying, "You said we were done." She says, "I did not say we're done, Dom." Now, I wanted to pick up on that. She doesn't say, "I didn't say we are done." She says, "I did not." She uses the formal sense. And quite often when people use the formal sense, it's because they're lying and they want to appear more serious. Doesn't mean every time that someone says that they're lying. But if you just look, later on she says, "I'm going to count to 10, not I am going to count to 10, or you're going to open the door, not you are going to open the door." So I wonder if this is a lie and she did say we are done. We hear later on in this call, she's not above saying that this is all over. And then we get the language of control. She says, "Okay, ready? I'm going to count to 10. The door's going to open. Okay." So that's ordering language. This is the language of control. Someone who wants to get their own way and is stating it very, very, very solidly. The door's going to open. Okay. You're going to open the door and stop hiding behind the door like a little fucking bitch. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All controlling language. She's saying, "You're going to open the door." And then she starts counting. He says, "Mackenzie, I can't open the door." 4. Okay, I'm going to break something then. Now, this is coercive control. This is someone trying to find out which buttons to press to get their own way. So just ordering the door to be opened hasn't worked. So she's gone and tried something else. "I'm going to break something then." Okay, this is coercive control, usually in a man. But here it's in Mackenzie. And she says, "I'm going to break something then." She hasn't decided what it is she's going to break, but she's saying, if you don't oblige, if you don't comply, there will be consequences. And you'll notice that while she's in the ordering language, "Open the door, I'm going to break something," he is not. Dom is saying, why would you break something? Asking questions. Why? What are you trying to break? She doesn't answer that question because she has no idea what she's going to break. She's just throwing out threats to try and get her own way. So she doesn't say what she's going to break. She just says, okay, open the door. Dom tries again. What are you trying to break? Open the door. The language of control. No, I'm not opening the door, he says. Dom, I'm going to give you. And then she moves on to a new threat because the something was going to break doesn't work. She doesn't know what she's going to break, and he is not going to react if he doesn't know what is going to get broken. I'm going to give you, if this phone call hits 5 minutes, we're breaking up. So yeah, now I think definitely a lie. She's not above saying we're going to break up. He says, Kenzie, I can't do this shit right now. You can't sit here and fight like, okay, well, you're not going to dinner. And another threat comes up, just trying to push his buttons until she gets her way. Step away from the door. Maybe I can come outside and talk for a second. Look, he's using nice language, not controlling language. Maybe I can come outside and talk for a second. She's back with the control. No, we're not fighting outside. You're going to open the door now. Why are you fighting outside? You're 1 minute now, actually. And he says, look, my mom's trying to call me. If you hang up on me, we're done. I'm leaving, is what she said. So it's just all controlling language, contradictory as well. You know, she's saying this thing's going to happen. No, this thing's going to happen. And very, very threatening. Not a nice person. She's not getting any benefit of the doubt from me whatsoever. Now, we saw at the very beginning, she did speak at her trial. I don't think she spoke and gave evidence on her own behalf, but she did give a statement at sentencing. This is it.
Mackenzie, you don't have to speak if you don't want to. It's up to you. Okay? You can sit if it's more comfortable, whatever's better for you.
The families of Dom and Davion, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davion. We were all friends and Dom was my soulmate. I wish I could take all your pain away. And I'm so sorry. And to my family, thank you for the support and all the love you guys give. Thank you for fighting with me. I love you all so much. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Once they've decided that she's going to stand to do it, she starts off by addressing the families and saying, to the families of Don and Davion, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. Deceptive wording again. We've got a double persuader. I'm so deeply sorry. Not, I'm sorry. That would be enough. I'm sorry just covers it all. It's very plain. It's very simple, but she has to put extra words in there. I'm so deeply sorry. To, I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. And her focus again is not, I hope one day you could see that this was not intentional, this was an accident. It's, I hope one day you could see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. Let this happen, do it on purpose. Again, for me, embedded confessions, because that's the way her mind works. Those are the things that she jumps to when she says it. Also, it's not, I hope one day you can see I didn't let this happen and I didn't do it on purpose. It's, I would never. That's in the future. That's a concept. It's not about the facts. It's not about the events. So her words just hold no weight with me. Then she says, I wish I could remember what happened. Not I wish I could know what happened. She's focused on her alibi, if you like, which is that she didn't remember. Can't blame anything on me. I don't remember what happened. I must have blacked out. I wish I could remember what happened, not know what happened. And then she brings in a just. And I think everything she says after just is pretty much deceptive. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davion. We were all friends and Dom was my soulmate. Interesting, she puts friends before soulmate. Look at the ordering there. We were all friends. Dom was my soulmate. I did see in some of her words that closeness, the doing things together with Dom. But now, friends, Davion, all as important. Dom was my soulmate. I wish I could take away all your pain. I'm so sorry. Now you'll notice this is not about her. This is all about her, rather. She's addressing the families, but she's talking about what she wants. She's really wanting it to sound like she acknowledges what a hard time they're going through, but that's not in her words. Look, I hope one day. So my hope is. So she's saying what she wants, not what not what they want or she wants for them. I wish I could remember. I wish I could take away your pain. I'm heartbroken. This is all about her. And that continues as well when she talks about her family, because she doesn't say, you're great guys. You've been great, have a happy life together or anything like that. She thanks them for all they've done for her, which is fine, but she's not giving anything out. And it's all the things they've done for her. She's grateful for what she's got. Selfish person, in other words. To my family, thank you for the support and all the love you guys give. Thank you for fighting with me. All about her, all about what they've done for her. I love you all so much. Then she says, I'm done. Thank you. So for me, she's a controller. She's bossy. She's coercive. She's manipulative. I don't believe any of her justifications. I think she knows, and I can see in her words, that this was done with intent. Maybe not the full intent of everything that happened, but there was intent behind it. So do I think she's innocent? Do I think she's telling the truth in the documentary? No, I don't. What do you think? Let me know in the comments if you can, or get in touch at neveratruerword.com. You'll find the email address and all the socials there as well. By the way, do you want me to look at her parents? Lots of people have said, hey, you think she's bad. Her parents are, well, there's more going on there. Do let me know. I will know from the likes that this episode gets. I'll know from the views and the listens that this episode gets whether there's an appetite for it. But if you want to go route one, just leave me a comment and say, please do the parents as well. You'll find a lot more on Netflix. There's been lots of things on Netflix where I've broken down the words. There's a playlist on YouTube, and you can get hold of all of that. Just check out neveratruerword.com. I'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word. And remember, the truth is always in the words.